Good evening and welcome back to another installment of Umsamo Encounters. Africa's first platform for the discussion of challenges most important to us and how we can overcome these challenges through the application of indigenous wisdom which stems from our African culture. Tonight we thought it best to deal with an issue which affects every single citizen of this country, regardless of age, gender, or race, the law. More particularly, the interaction of Western and customary law in South Africa. South Africa, like most African countries, has a history of colonialism, yet we are rich in indigenous cultural practices and customs. Now, as we all know that in South Africa, we are actually practicing under what we call the common law. Started with the Dutch common law and later on the British common law. Now, I'm not a legal expert anyway. I'm just an African Nuhlanya. And tonight I'm joined by two great legal minds who will assist us in unpacking this profound and complicated topic. The topic about the customary law from our own rich indigenous customs. My first guest is Advocate Mawelewele Rambau and beautiful lady, Ateni Mudiehi, I hope I pronounce it correctly, Mafahalo. Welcome.
Correct, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and I must thank you for agreeing to join us tonight. I must tell you why. Because whenever you approach an attorney or an advocate or someone who has studied law and say, listen, I want us to talk about customary law, people say, hey, Kabazela, yes, I'll come back. I will see you. Now, you know, then at the UKZN, I asked certain students, said, what's wrong with customary law? They said, hey, Baba Mkize, yes, we do customary law, but at a very peripheral, you know, a way. You know, it's unlike the other disciplines within the legal or what, you know, legal studies and so on and so on. It looks as if very little time is given to customary law. Okay? Rambau, you are an old man in the legal field. She's the young lady. Maybe let me start with the young lady. Give us a short background about yourself, where you studied, and what happened during your studies in customary law. How is it being taken before we go further?
Okay, like you've mentioned, my name is Mudiehi Mafalo. Alumni of University of Limpopo, studied my LLB with them, graduated there with distinction. Yes.
So you graduated with distinction?
Yes.
The LLB?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes. So basically, we studied, in my first year, we did African customary law and divulged more into it into my second year. And more or less, we were covering the history of African, I mean, the influence of colonialism in Africa, in South Africa, and divulging also into the customary law that has become prevalent after having been recognized by the Constitution after 1996. So, but it wasn't a deep conversation that we had with our lecturers on this, but in any fact, there was some focus that was brought for this type of law.
Now, when you studied now customary law as law,
yes,
I know customary law comes from our customs, from our indigenous practices, okay? Was it something new for you?
No.
Or it's something that you grew up, it was just like a revision?
Not per se revision. from anything that I've learned as I was growing up, but you get certain aspects that you never knew about. And you have to now go deep into finding out what the root problem is to solving all of this problems that you encounter as a lawyer and trying to develop the customary law to fit into the modern world. So, but from growing up as a Pedi girl back in Luwahomu, Limpopo, there were certain aspects that I saw as and when I was studying that were prevalent, and it made sense going forward with the...
Now, let's come to practice now.
Yes.
You are a practicing attorney.
Yes, correct.
For how many years now?
This is my second year.
Second year.
Yes.
Now.
Post-admission.
Okay. Are there any cases where now you have found yourself now faced with, which are actually now involving the knowledge of customary law?
Yes. I have one, in fact, where the plaintiff is trying to divorce the defendant, being the husband. They were married by customary rights. Lobola was paid for, negotiated, everything was concluded, and they've lived apart for almost 10 years. But now the plaintiff would wish to get divorced from the defendant. They've never registered their marriage.
How?
No, they haven't. You say how? Yeah, so now you come across trying to help this person. How do you come across to try and bring that marriage to dissolution as they've asked for it to be done? But looking at what rules govern customary law as they are governed by the regime in that sense. But now with our constitution having recognized the whole customary law system, you find that marriages concluded after a certain time are having been recognized by the constitution, have legislation that governs how they can be dissolved. So it's not so much a problem if you know where to get to find the correct laws to apply. And when you have the correct facts from the parties, then you know how to help them and give them the solutions that they seek.
Advocate Rambang, the old man in the legal field. What has been your experience as an advocate in terms of cases which needs the application of the customary law?
Thank you, Dr. Mkize. The one thing that I can say that is very problematic, I understand that the young ones who are starting to practice now may not have been too exposed to this. We did study so-called African law at university, but the problem is you'll be studying African law and be taught by somebody who does not understand African law. And you must understand, Dr. Mkize, that a lot of people are from different places. I am Venda, somebody is Zulu, and all these customs, their practices are not the same. Each and every ethnic group would like to practice what is indigenous to them. What is Venda will be different from what is Zulu or Pedi. I'll give you an example, Dr. Mkize. I have cases at the moment where a Zulu man got married. When he got married in isiZulu, I hope those Zulus who are listening might correct me, but that is what is happening currently with me. With isiZulu, there is something called isibaya. Now, what they do, this guy came to me, it's my client, says, Mr. Ramba, I've got a problem. I got married to this woman. When he got married to this woman, now it is presumed through the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act of 1998 that every marriage prior 1998 must be registered. It was also in the radios and all that, that it must be registered. And when you get married, even now, within a period of 3 months, You must go and register the marriage. Now, Dr. Mkiza, I've got a problem. Because the medium through which these things are disseminated does not reach the people it's supposed to reach. A lot of people stay in serious rustic areas where they don't listen to radio. Some don't even have television.
But they are married under the customary law.
Under customary law. And how do we understand customary law? Customary law, from days immemorial, were known to be practiced and administered by chiefs in every other village. Every village would have a headman, meaning that there's a certain area, because the chief alone cannot administer that. There will be a headman that is put in a particular area to oversee all the infractions that are happening in that particular area. And then what will happen in Venda, people will hear on Saturdays, all initiated men will say, Ria Koroni, meaning we are going to the chief's court. Every infraction will be dealt with there. And a fine in case that you are found to have offended somebody, your wife, you have beaten your wife, you wouldn't be taken to court as it is today. You'll be tried in that court, be fined either a goat and some money. Now, let me come back to what I was talking about now. This man has married. He was not aware that he was supposed to go and register the marriage. And automatically, the marriages since 1998, they are presumed and they are regarded to be in community of property. Now, the woman from Johannesburg is saying, now that we are divorcing, we must divide the estate. The man said, it does not happen in my culture. Meaning that I've built at my father's crown. Nobody is going to sell anything here. Now he came to me. He explains it so clearly. I understand it. But unfortunately, Dr. Mkize, we have a problem in this country. Our laws, customary laws, are not protected.
Maybe while you are still there, if we're talking about customary law, she said she studied African customary law, okay? I've got a book here which is called African Customary Law, okay? And you said you studied African law. To me, that if it says African customary law, it means it's a law that must actually be inclusive. Xhosa, Venda, Tswana, Pedi, Zulus, and whatever. Okay? Now, is what you guys studied at the university addressing that? You are a Venda, you are a Tswana, I'm a Umzulu. How is the customary law at universities embraces all these indigenous, our different indigenous cultures and traditions, even before we handle the cases at court?
If I may answer that one, it is a very big problem. A lot of attorneys today do not know African customs. A lot of children who are born in the urban areas are never exposed to African customs. Instead, the ones that are in the urban areas regard those that are in the rural areas like they are stupid. Why practice this? Why do this? Because the Western culture, Dr. Mkize, has taken over. I'll give you an example of what I was talking about. This man could have sounded very stupid, that nothing should be sold. But it is his custom that a woman, in the African sense, when you marry a woman, upatala ilobolo, you are like buying her procreational powers. Uzozala abantwana la. And in reality, what would happen, this issue called divorce was unheard of. But we are living during those times. And whoever wrote even that book that you have got, you'll find that it sides with a particular ethnic group. The African law that we studied tried to touch here and there, but it was not really all inclusive. And I can tell you, okay, I'm old. I know at least some of the things in Venda, you know, but I know that our children are not following that. Whether they study law, if they are to represent, Dr. Mkhize, a client who follows customs, they will not know where to start. Because you know that in the Western culture, for you to get a divorce, the only ground of divorce is no longer adultery or the fault issue. It is based on the irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. Now, what did the Western law do? It says, it does not matter whether you are married by African custom. Even if it's African custom, it will be administered in terms of the Divorce Act of 1978.
How?
In the sense that in the past, juxtapose these two positions. In the past, marriages could be dissolved. How were they dissolved? I'll give you an example. It would happen that a woman commits adultery, or some things are just not going well, and she goes to a home. She just leaves, you know, and goes to her father's kraal. If the family of the man, the husband, wanted her back, they would send people to go and ask, the child has come, there's this and this that happened. They will be issued with a fine. Okay? And the woman will go back. Now, if she would disagree and the family disagrees, the marriage is dissolved completely. And that's where a big problem came in, particularly with the Western culture. Because they look at equity, how fair is this, how fair is that. This is African culture. Because what would happen then, it's lobolo. And I think in every other ethnic group, surprisingly, the lobolo would be claimed back. Either half of the lobolo would be paid back, or the whole amount would be paid back. And again, it would be a marriage, customary marriage would be dissolved by the death of a husband.
Okay. The young lady wants to quickly come in.
Yeah, you asked the question, what is the difference between the African customary law that we study and his African law that they study, and if they integrated the different tribal groups that exist in South Africa. And I wanted to just jump in, but he actually went very deep into that. I wanted to say the influence when we, in applying, in trying to realize if any of those tribal groups have been recognized in terms of the African customary law, is that you find that in dealing with the different problems, the easiest solution for, I think, some lawyers would be that we apply the civil method of resolving those matters, because we are not so familiar with the African customs of it.
But my question is this.
Yes.
We are a country in Africa. We are a country which now, let me put it, with democracy, where now the law must actually favor everybody and support everybody. Now, here is a man from the rural areas. He married under the customary law. But here comes the divorce, even though the divorce doesn't exist in the African context. Now, how can you then switch me to the civil, to the civil whatever, as you are saying?
Because it works for me as the wife, the plaintiff, if I may say, for in that instance.
No, it works for you. But what about the judge and the justice system?
Well, the justice system favors the manner in which the divorce would be administered.
So to make it easy.
To make it easy, we put in the civil law to in fact say for every marriage that has been entered into by customary law and having been registered after the coming up of the Recognition of Marriages Act, that marriage would then be administered in the dissolution of that marriage. We would administer it the same way as we do civil marriages. And in terms of the certain acts that govern the divorce of such marriage, and the properties, obviously, then with the then we will have to be dealing with how we divide the estate of the parties.
Let me say, for argument's sake, I have 2 wives, right?
Yes.
The other one is married under the civil marriage. The other one, I bring her in under the customary marriage. It doesn't happen.
You can't.
I can see you are shaking your head.
If I may answer that, Dr. Mkize, what is happening is, I do not know who drafted this, but there are several people, from different ethnic groups. Others did it more than the rest. You find that it's a Zulu man writing, it's a professor in the University of Zululand, he's writing, but then there's no consultation with these other ethnic groups. What will happen is, the law states now that you cannot marry by civil marriage and customary marriage.
How?
You can, but then there must be an order of court for you to do that. The reason being that in the past, someone will come to Johannesburg, as you know, the migrant labor system. You've got a wife in Venderland, you come to Johannesburg, you marry a letter by civil rights. When you die, the one in Johannesburg takes everything.
How?
Now, the law was created because they could see there were gaps. And you must understand, when the law is administered, they don't first check whether the magistrate or the judge is black or white. A job is a job. Now, it's a white man seated there trying to adjudicate on customary law. He goes and calls Rambo, just assist me, who's very shallow about customary law. Hence, a lot of decisions go to courts and whatever thing, and hence the plea to the government, as I may put it. Customary law should be put in such a way and be taught, whether to black students or white students, in a manner, as we are putting it, we are living in a democracy. Every other ethnic group deserved to be treated, or the law should administer them in a manner that they understand. The powers of the chiefs have been curtailed considerably. And all these things are creating problems. If you want to marry by custom, you need, that's what they wrote now, you need an order of court. If you want to marry the third wife, in most instances, the consent of the elderly wife shall be sought.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rambao. People, kulkhuni. Kunzima. Niyazizwela. In 1994, we actually celebrated democracy. And also the preaching was that the justice system, everything, would be transformed and whatever. Universities are teaching out customary law courses as part of the law degrees and so on. You pass and then you go out to practice, but when you practice, then uhlangabezana nenhlwathi kubuka ebusweni. I'll come back.